All right, everyone. Thank you for joining in. Today, we are going over the Hatpin Crisis of the 1900s. As a quick refresher, because I don't know about you, but I was not around in the 1900s. We have World War One on the horizon that starts about 1914. We have the rise of the Industrial Age or the Gilded Age, where you have names such as Carnegie, Rockefeller, Ford, Wells Fargo. We have the rise of the industrial assembly line and the rise of unions, where workers come together to fight for better wages, for job safety, and for shorter work hours. We also have the beginning of suffragettes. So those are women fighting for the right to vote, which white women will get in the 1920s. Uh, we have a bit later, we have the Emergency Quota Act of 1922 and the Immigration Act of 1924, just to give you a mindset of what's going on in the nation at the time. These acts were created to limit immigration from non-Western Hemisphere countries, essentially for Asian countries. So US at the time was not very friendly towards uh, as for the US, we have the full American continent. We don't have Hawaii or Alaska yet. So going on, probably haven't had a hat pin in your life. I haven't. It was a common fashion of the time. So it was a sign of wealth and class. It was a bit like wearing a Gucci belt of the time. So the fashion was to wear hats everywhere. Um, as you can see in this upper right picture up here, that is how they would fit through a hat. It would actually go all the way through. These hat pins could be up to, I believe, a foot long and were all over the place. So we have some designs of hat pins up in the middle there, and then the advertisement in the lower corner here is for some 6-inch hat pins, and that is from 1893, if I remember correctly. So women would uh, put these through their hats in order to decorate them, because at the time, with any outfit, you needed a good hat. Richer women would include things like flowers or birds in their hats, like taxidermy birds. They are not legal in the US anymore, so please do not go out and try and find one. Uh, However, you probably have seen hat pins before and just not realized. So, here is the Queen of England in the left pictures, and those flowers and the feather in her hat are actually hat pins. So those actually go all the way through the hat just to pin it there. And on the right is a hat pin hat from the 1900s, from one we're talking about, just to kind of show the fashion of the time and how having an entire bouquet of flowers on your head was just what you did. So, what's the crisis? What's going on? In New York City on Fifth Avenue, a woman was on what is called a stagecoach. It was essentially a bus before buses exist. Um, so as you can see in the picture, this is actually a Fifth Avenue bus coach. You have people in the windows there riding inside and people on the top there. And so you're crammed in pretty tight. A woman was riding stagecoach home after work one day, 19 years old. She ended up getting harassed by a man, and the reports vary depending on how sensationalized it is. But at some point or another, the man made advances towards her, put his arm around her, and in reaction, the young lady pulled out her hat pin and stabbed the man either in the arm or the leg, depending on which incident you read. And this ends up getting publicized in a newspaper ends up getting caught up by larger and larger newspapers and goes across the US. Especially the East Coast gets wind of it and says, "Hey, we kind of are wearing swords on our heads. This might not be a terrible idea. Disclaimer, please do not stab people. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's a bad idea." But it was the concept of women's safety outdoors, alone, when they're beginning to be able to go to work, even if only as secretaries and in limited positions. Here is a picture of one of the newsletters of the woman who pulls out her hat pin and the man who is stabbed, for lack of a better term. This ends up going around and eventually goes into a sensationalized version where women are starting to pick up on this. They're saying, "Oh, well, wait, we can do that too. That's actually not a bad idea. I wear a hat pin all the time." So when people are harassing them or whatnot, it becomes a form of self-defense. This is a picture series from a pamphlet that was distributed about how to fend off an attacker as a woman, where she pulls out her hat pin and threatens with it. This leads to a rise in the 1900s to about 1910 of women using their hat pins to defend themselves from either muggers, attackers, whatever may be. So what? Well, this ends up, as you might imagine, people are not thrilled that they are getting stabbed or potentially stabbed. So as these reports of hat pins being used increase, so too do reports of accidental stabbings, or the man was doing nothing and he got stabbed by a crazy woman. Or another popular one that made the rounds was that a man was accidentally pricked behind his ear with a hat pin from a lady who's it just happened to go through her hat, and a week later he was in a coma. Uh, so in 1910, they ended up passing a law that hat pins were an arrestable offense, so you would be taken to jail if you were found to have one over 9 inches, and then eventually at all, and that it came with a $50 fine, which at the time was a significant amount of money. So there were two arguments behind it. Where it was protecting women from themselves. I mean, what if they prick their own hands? What if they end up in a coma? And to protect innocent men who were just being attacked for no reason. As you can tell, there may be several sides to the story, as women did not have many rights in this time period. They didn't have the right to own property. They didn't even have the right to vote. So whether the accounts are legitimate or propaganda, it could be both. So, what are you guys thinking now? Should hat pins be made illegal? Should they have ever been illegal? Should we bring them back? And how do you guys think this fits with American history? So, some suggestions for that second question, because it's rather vague. How did it interact with government policy or suffragettes and social movements? What does it say about cultural norms and what's acceptable to do in public and what's not acceptable to do in public? And what does this say about women's lives and what they dealt with on a daily basis? You don't have to answer all of those questions. You can make up your own question for that. Just write down something about how that fits in or interacts with something we've been talking about in class. All right. We will see you in person after this. Have a nice night. Bye now.